Hey guys, Castle Corp Gaming here. Have you ever wondered, what if I could punch a dragon? Well, today's your lucky day, because today we're going to find out, can you beat Skyrim completely unarmed? Now this challenge has been done in the past by some other YouTubers, and I've been wanting to do a challenge like this for a really long time now. So, without further ado, let's get into the rules of this challenge. I'm only allowed to use my fists in combat. I will be allowed to use alteration and restoration spells for healing, otherwise this challenge is basically impossible. I will be allowed to use gauntlets and abilities for buffs, but only when I have to. I am allowed to use shouts that are required for quests, such as using Dragon Rend on Alduin. I am allowed to use traps as long as I don't activate them. For example, if I lead a Draugr into a trap and they die, then that's fair game. However, if I use a fire trap and kill them, then that's not allowed. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. We wake up in a carriage with some of Skyrim's most wanted, and some guy who stole a horse. I found out during our little carriage ride that we're actually being brought to our execution. We arrive at Helgen, and I'm asked to create my character. Usually I like to play with elves and use magic, but sadly in this run I'm gonna have to go unarmed, so I use a Nord. He seems bulky enough, and I have faith he'll carry me through this run. I name my character Mayweather, because I plan on delivering multiple knockouts throughout this run. I get to the chopping block, and I'm prepared to be executed when suddenly, I'm saved by a great flying lizard swooping down from the sky. I make a break for it and head down to Helgen Keep where I can find my way out. When I finally got to Helgen Keep, I managed to escape with roll-off, straight up suplex a man, and then I punched another guy right in his face. Right after I got out, I continued on through the dungeon where I met a couple of other Nords that looked like they needed some help, so I gladly obliged. Right after that, we went through some spiders, ran past a bear, and got out of there. We find out that Roloff has a sister in Riverwood that can give us some answers on what to do next, so that's where I decide to go. His sister tells me that she needs me to go to Whiterun and ask some soldiers to help fight some dragons that are on their way. On my way to Whiterun, I try to stage a rescue of a Stormcloak soldier, but I simply decided he could handle it for himself. As you can see, I obviously would have destroyed them, but I decided to hold my power back and just walk away. Eventually, I found my way to Whiterun, where I talked to the Jarl and he agrees to send some troops to Riverwood to fight against the dragon. Before we're allowed to do anything else, Farengar has a little quest for us. He wants us to go all the way to some stupid Draugr ruin to get some stupid rock that he thinks might be useful later. This is where we hit our first wall. There is absolutely no way I'll be able to put a dent in any Draugr, or even the Draugr Overlord. He's way too powerful. So, luckily for me, there is a legend of a man who has mastered the art of the fist that lives in the Rift and Roundbase. I make my way there so I can beat him up and steal his gloves. After multiple failed attempts of trying to beat him in one-on-one combat, I finally realized there were bear traps on the ground. And as I said earlier in the run, I can lure people into traps. So, after luring him into a few traps, I deliver a few massive finishing blows, and just like that, his prize is mine. The gloves of the pugilist add 10 damage to my 4 unarmed damage, making the new total 14 damage. I have more of a fighting chance now, but essentially my damage output is about the same as some of the weakest weapons in the game. With my newly found power, I make my way down to Bleak Falls Barrow to get the Dragonstone. When I get down there, the bandits are pretty easy to take out. The more armored bandits are a lot harder to deal with, but still manageable with some strategy. I avoid most of the Draugr and went straight for the Dragonstone. Unfortunately, there was a Draugr Overlord attached to it, and he was not prepared to let it go. At first, beating him was pretty hard, and he can basically kill me in 2 attacks at this point in the game. I am still level 1 and have very few points in heavy armor and light armor. After a few tries, I get this one attempt where he just decides to keep taunting me and not attack at all, so I easily take him down. With Dragonstone in hand, I quickly return to Whiterun to tell Farengar that I got the stone. After handing it off, the Jarl tells me that there's been a dragon attack at the watchtower, and he wants me and some soldiers to go check it out. I get down there and see the watchtower in ruins. Even worse, I found out that the dragon's on his way back and I have to kill it. Fighting this dragon was no easy task. Anytime I got too close to the tailor face, I'd either get burnt to a crisp, eaten, or smashed by its tail. I decided that I'd let the soldiers weaken him a bit, and then I would go finish the job when his health was low enough. After defeating the dragon, I accidentally devoured its soul and found out from a Whiterun guard that I'm a dragonborn. With my new information under my belt, I head back into town, and as soon as I get there's some weird earthquakes going on. Thinking nothing of it, I continue on the Dragon's Reach to give the Jarl the good news that we've killed the dragon. I also tell him about what happened earlier and that his guard said I was dragonborn. I found out through the Jarl that the earthquakes were actually some old guys called the Greybeards calling me to the Temple of High Hrothgar. Apparently, they must have thought sending a messenger for me wasn't good enough to get my attention. On my way out of Dragon's Reach, I had Lydia to my party, and we head down to High Hrothgar. On my way down to Ivarstead, I run into this hunter lady who, out of the kindness of her heart, just offered me a horse to ride down Ivarstead with. I make my way down there with the horse, head up the 1,000 steps, and after beating a few not-so-friendly dogs and avoiding a troll, I finally make it up to the temple where I can speak to the Greybeards. They're apparently into this weird thing where they like being shouted at, so I obliged them, and they couldn't be more pleased with my breathing and shouting abilities. After I shout at a ghost a few times, they take me to the courtyard, teach me how to move fast using my voice, and send me on a fetch quest to receive the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. I get to the end of the dungeon when, surprise surprise, the horn was already taken by someone else and I have to meet with them. Turns out the person who stole it was the innkeeper in Riverwood named Delphine. We go to her secret hideout and find out she doesn't really believe that I'm dragonborn, so she wants me to go kill a dragon and absorb its soul in front of her. We get over to Wilhelm just in time to witness a dragon being brought back to life by Alduin. I punch him multiple times in the guts and steal its bones, and after absorbing its soul, Delphine finally believes that I'm dragonborn. She tells me that she believes that Thalmor are responsible for the dragon's revival, and that we need to infiltrate their party so that we can get more information on the dragon's attacks. When I get to the Thalmor embassy, I meet with Melbourne, who says that he can take me to the dungeons, but only if I cause a distraction first. Luckily for me, there's a guy who's just one drink away from being the distraction we need. I hand him some ale and he does his thing while I sneak out through the back. This is one of the parts of the run I was worried about because I can hardly hold my own in a one-on-one fight, so I'd be absolutely destroyed if I got caught by multiple guards at a time. So I had to make this a stealth mission. The good part about this mission is that if I make it past the courtyard, the elves in that area will completely forget I'm there, so I don't have to worry about them when I progress. I get down to the dungeon and have to get 2 guards to progress. I couldn't do stealth because I needed to take them out before the other guards got there. I take out the mage first, and then I take out the guard. Next, I have to deal with the last 2 guards that come in with Melbourne. I decided I had no chance of fighting both of them, so I hid myself behind the door so that when they came in, I could just pickpocket the one with the trapdoor key and leave Melbourne to die. After escaping the embassy, I travel back to Delphine and tell her that the Thalmor are looking for an old man named Esbern. Turns out that him and Delphine are old friends, so she asked me to go retrieve him. Luckily, since I'd already been through the Ratways earlier in the run, and already pulled the drawbridge down, I was quickly able to get down to the dungeon to Esbern. He agrees to help us out, and we head down the Riverwood together. We get down there and meet Delphine at the HQ, where Esbern starts shouting some nonsense about Alduin's wall and how it will give us the secret to saving the world. Somehow he convinces us to make the trip down there, so we ended up at Skyhaven Temple. On my way down there, I run into a dragon who I gladly hand the responsibility of killing over to the Forsworn. From there I get to the ruins, knock out some random Forsworn guy, do some puzzles meant for a 5-year-old, and finally arrive at the Skyhaven Temple. After waiting way longer than I'd like, Esbern and Delphine finally arrive at the temple. In the temple, we find out that I'm going to need some kind of shout to defeat Alduin that's going to knock him out of the sky. So I go to the Greybeards to get some help about learning about it. I go back to the Greybeards, and they tell me they can't teach me the shout because they both don't know it and don't want to teach it to me even if they could. They do, however, tell me that I can learn the shout from their master who lives on top of the mountain. I learn the clear sky shout from them, and then get to the third of the world to meet the Grand Master himself, Parthenax the dragon. He tells me that the only way to learn the shout is by getting the Elder Scroll of the Dragon, which means that I have to go to a man in Winterhold who knows where it is. After taking a moment to enjoy the nice, beautiful night sky, I make my way down to Septimus Signus, who tells me that the scroll is in an ancient Dwemer ruin. This is Agony. For those of you who don't know, the Dwemer ruins are pretty much the most hated areas in all of Skyrim, containing Falmer, elves built like Golem from Lord of the Rings, but somehow stronger than most of the creatures in the game. On top of that, they're literally attack robots, which are very resistant to my punches. Anyways, I get down to the torture that is the Dwemer ruins, and basically avoid all of the enemies. And after a little puzzle, I get to the Dragon Scroll. I bring it back to Parthenax and read it to find out that Alduin was never defeated, but rather sent forward in time to be a future generation's problem. Unfortunately, that future generation's me, and as I'm taking away the scroll from my eyes, I happen to see Alduin right in front of me. Now this fight took multiple attempts totaling in almost 2 hours worth of time. And finally, after way too much time and effort, Lydia, Parthenex, and I finally defeat Alduin. For the first of 2 times I'm going to have to fight him this game. To do that, however, I'm going to have to capture Alduin's right-hand man in Dragon's Reach and convince him to take me there. I go to Whiterun and ask the Jarl if I can use his castle to capture a dragon. But even after literally all that we've done for him, he asks me to do yet another favor just for him to basically do one thing for us. After a meeting that was basically pointless in the face of the apocalypse, I head over to Whiterun and tell the Jarl that I got the armies to come to a truce. We go to the top of the tower, call Odoving, and trap him so that he can help us get to Alduin. Turns out that he wasn't much of a fan of his boss in the first place, so he immediately agrees to take my side and we fly off to Skullbound. Once we touch down, I'm immediately bombarded with dragons, Draugr, and puzzles. I was able to get past the dragons and even leveled up when killing some Draugr. As for the puzzles, they were more obnoxious than they were hard when mixed with the enemies. Eventually I got to the portal of Sovngarde and dove right past the superpowered mage into Skullbound. Once I get there, I make my way over to Sin, who's blocking my entrance to Sovngarde. He says that we have to fight in order for me to gain entrance, so I take on his challenge. This fight took more attempts than I can count, because his heavy attacks kill me in one shot, and his light attacks are almost just as good. I can't let him get more than a single hit on me or I'll die. After many of these attempts, I learned his attack patterns in between using my environment and striking just after he stops attacking. I take him down so I can get to Sovngarde. Now it's time for the final battle. I meet the 3 so-called heroes responsible for Alduin being sent forward in time, and tell them that I'm here to finish the job they started. We head out to the front of Sovngarde, where we tell Alduin to stop vaping all over the place, and he challenges us to a fight. The battle was long and arduous, and I got a good few hits in, and with the help of the 3 heroes and the power of my fists, we finally defeat Alduin and beat him into literal non-existence and save all of Skyrim. More importantly, we beat Skyrim completely. Hey guys, so before the end of the video, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video today. This is one of my first videos on the channel, and I'm really excited to do more in the future. Leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment on what you think I should do for my next challenge. This has been really fun, and I really hope to do this next time with you guys. Until next time, I'm Castle Corp Gaming. Peace out.